One tweet thread sums up pretty much everything very well. Click the links for Odyssey, Bit Chute, join the Telegram for sure, and there's a new Discord because the old Discord, which was number 3, got nuked this morning for terms of service violations. So Discord number 4 is up. I know people I like Telegram, but people like to use Discord too. So you can, I guess, email me for the link. And this time I'm going to learn how to use Discord. There's a whole thing where like you make people mods and assign like hierarchies of roles to different people. There's a whole learning curve. I'm going to actually like get a notepad out and actually learn how to use Discord this afternoon. So if you, and we got to keep the SJWs out, so you can email me for a link and I will set up that. So this kind of sums up what happened and where we are going. Basically, she got upset. She made some comments that she was wrong about, and then people pointed that out. And then she did kind of a tail wagging the dog, with if you're polling bad, what do? Start a war with the Ukraine, where she went on a 3.5-minute rant that she probably got the okay for, or she got the okay for most of it from her coworkers. And I guess that they thought it would be like a mic drop moment from like 2014 kind of energy when people still cared about feminism. And I guess they had not been paying attention to the culture war because people have moved on we've moved on way beyond caring about feminism. It's not a mic drop moment. It's like it's 5 years old and people are kind of looking at their watches during her 3-minute spiel. And then what happened is she deleted all her Twitter, and then people go, oh, she must have got in trouble with her agent or her coworkers, that kind of stuff. Let me put my 300-pound self out on a limb and take a guess about Frosk. No, I don't think she is getting in trouble because you and I expect that she got like a friendly talking to from somebody because we're normal. And let me explain. I just got on Telegram last week, and my Telegram was a little bit of a mess. There's a learning curve to Telegram like there is to Discord. It's just, there's complicated different things you have to do. It's like it's not something it's not like Odyssey or Bit Chute. It's not like a video hosting platform where you literally, or even a Gab or a Twitter, like that kind of stuff is very straightforward. It's like Discord and Telegram, there's a learning curve to them. Anyway, so someone who is also involved in social media as a profession, he DMs me and he says, "Hey, listen, I don't want to intrude or be too forward, but let me tell you how to set up your Telegram because it's all messed up." So I thanked him and I listened to him and I took his advice because it was reasonable, normal advice, and I fixed Telegram. I went and deleted everything and started over from the ground up. And it's none of that's a big deal. It's just how adults talk to each other. Like, you can tell when people don't have chips on their shoulders. Like, I don't have a chip on my shoulder, and there's a lot of people in Comicsgate who also don't. I mean, you can always catch somebody on a bad day, but there's a lot more people than not in CG who just don't have chips on their shoulders, who are gonna like just deal with you as reasonable, normal adults. Anyway, I took his advice. I fixed Telegram because I knew that he knew what he was talking about. And I knew he was saying, like, listen, Telegram is its own thing. It has its own certain vibe. You have to fit your social media vibe to Telegram like you would do with any other platform. Every platform is slightly different. And when you start making videos, even with a small channel, it's like I knew what he was talking about. So I fixed Telegram. But SJWs are wired differently than you and I. And the thing is, if you're listening to this, you probably don't know anyone like on a personal level who's a real avowed SJW, not as a friend. You might have to deal with them somewhat, but like you're probably not friends with someone who's a hardcore SJW because they're very intolerant people. If you have a divergence of thought, or if you have the true diversity of thought, they really don't respect diversity of thought. And the thing is, they're more likely to get on a bandwagon or join. They're more likely to do things like everyone knows she's a witch, so we burn the witch. And then when the heretic says, well, where's the evidence that she's a witch? Oh, everybody knows. It's always been this way. We're always going to do it this way. Everybody knows. They're more likely to appeal to authority and to follow authority because they want to stay at the center of the herd, where people on the right are more likely to fight amongst each other and say, okay, well, where's the evidence for this? Show me some data to back this up. It's like, oh, that's why they do this thing on YouTube or on Twitter where they say, bad take, my guy. What you would do when you disagree with somebody is say, I disagree with these points you've made. Here's my rebuttal to your points, to your the peak of the hierarchy of rebutting, of argument is like I'm rebutting your points directly. I'm not attacking you. They say bad take, my guy. Yikes, bad look. That means they disagree with you, but they don't necessarily disagree with any concrete points. They are going to sick the crowd on you, to use like stochastic social media pressure to get you to change, to recant your ideas. That's what yikes, my guy, bad take means. They're not arguing the peak of your point. They're just saying that this is how the mob doesn't want you to hold these beliefs. The thing is, SJWs, they're wired differently. She's somewhere in the oppression hierarchy, even if it's a kind of imaginary oppression hierarchy of BLT, some sort of purse puppy. But she's a female in a men's industry, where she's kind of used to being deferred to, because otherwise she would be able to raise the defense of sexism. Now, here's the tricky thing about hiring people who are higher on they have more privilege than you. I mean, like purse puppy privilege points. With social media now, they can just, it's like the Fisher guy, the guy who played Cyborg, he can just run to social media and just call people Islamophobic. And he's going to whip up a mob, and no one in that mob is ever going to say, hey, can we see some evidence for these statements, these defamatory statements of fact? Can we see some? Because to ask for evidence immediately identifies you as a wrong thinker. So she has got, she's BLT and whatever, shaved side of the heads, how original. All she has to do is run to social media to complain. So if you think that her agent called her, and who knew that you needed an agent to be like a video game person, to do stuff on YouTube and to talk about video games, you need a talent agent for that. I would have thought that was something that you could kind of handle yourself. You could kind of set your own appointments for that. I can't imagine that it's such a busy gig, but apparently it is. You're dealing with Sony, so there's probably, like, these people probably get paid a whole lot more money than you would think they would get paid, and that you would definitely think that they deserve. So no, her agent or her bosses or whoever is, this kind of stuff, you usually have like a lot of bosses or a lot of people who are kind of have their fingers in the pot, who can chime in, and sometimes it's conflicting. The thing is, they probably didn't call her because I assume that they okayed her silly little 3.5 minute misandrous rant. So they can't exactly go complain to her on something that they kind of approved, even if they didn't approve every single word of it. But even if it was off the cuff, and I kind of really doubt that it was off the cuff, because you want your coworker, you want the people who are, the co-stars of the show, to not step on the lines and to have the right facial expressions. You want all this. It's all this stuff is scripted and fake. Like, the realest stuff you see on video is stuff like this, where you have somebody with a camera and a Kindle and no editing, just giving you a take. It's like that's as close to, I don't know, honest video as you're ever going to get. Once you start getting into editing and sets and scripts and green screens and all this kind of stuff, it's like you're getting kind of far away from this raw energy. And is that just an excuse to not do any editing? Probably. The thing is, even if it was off the cuff, what are her coworkers? There's an image of that guy clapping, like, so stunning and brave. I'm clapping for some 3.5 minute speech on people who, I don't know, she's not bangable. Why would you brag about that? So now it's kind of also turned into a left versus right wing thing, which is what people do all the time because of social media. That's what happened with Star Wars. And like, I think of all this kind of stuff is really kicking off in 2015 Star Wars, when that their first movie came out. I don't remember the name of it. The older crowd, who was original OG Star Wars fans, were over 40, probably, were vaguely more slightly right of center, because you get more right of center as you get older. And they were against the new stuff. So the kids who are when you're young, you're going to be on the left. They pretended to kind of support Star Wars, even if the financial numbers didn't back that up, because they saw it as like their dads liked the old Star Wars and the kids liked the new stuff. It's like, yeah, you kids don't really like the new stuff. You're just saying that because you're kids. So this has also turned into a left versus right issue, where people are kind of, once you pick your side, you can't really abandon it. They can't tell her to apologize. And it's really like, it's not even that. It's like you would just move on quickly and just do the best to put on the most entertaining show you could without any, like, you'd really want to lighten up on the SJW stuff. But the thing is, these people, they are SJWs. They're not going to, like, asking them to be less SJWs in a post 2016 Trump derangement syndrome world. It's impossible. Like, there's no way that this show could appeal to both sides of the camp. But the show's mostly for kids anyway. So, like, kids are kind of like casually left wing because you don't really come to the right until you hit about 18 or 20 and you start, actually thinking for yourself, and you look back at your teachers and realize, like, oh, the teachers were mostly like cat ladies and they were insane. And then you get out in the real world, you're like, oh yeah, all this left wing stuff is garbage. This is theory. There's no way it works. The thing is, they support her. They are SJW. So, like, yeah, they painted themselves in a corner, but it's a corner they wanted to be in. Because now the alt-right Hugo Boss wearing YouTubers who they're talking about on Twitter are like, she's going to play it like she's being attacked by Heels versus Babyface, Yellow Flash, Tug, Gary at Nerdrotic. Those are the people that they call like the far-right YouTubers. Those guys who talk about like anime and pop culture. And I've listened to all those guys, and I haven't heard them say anything far right. But if you, like, this started in 2015. If you don't like Star Wars, they start putting you in this category of, oh, you must be far right. And then you start realizing, like, oh, they're calling everybody that. It's like, are we? So if everyone is far right, you don't really know how a spectrum works. There has to be a spectrum of beliefs. I mean, but they don't want that. They don't want us. So they do the same thing with Comicsgate. They call everyone in Comicsgate far right. It's like, none of this makes any sense. This is a child's argument, but a lot of this is coming from children, tweens, teenagers, but it's also coming from adults who, I don't know, there's a lot of soy. And like, I use soy as a good example of these people who, they're like these people who would tattletale to the teacher for every little thing. They'll stab you in the back. Like, left-wing people, they don't have friends. They have temporary alliances because they're all scared of somebody stabbing them in the back for some oppression, to move a little bit higher on the oppression hierarchy. Anyway, so because it is now a left-wing versus right-wing thing, nobody on the left wing who's backing her can back down. They have to double down on this, even if it costs them a few $100,000 in revenue from the YouTube channel, which it absolutely has. They lost a few thousand subs. It's not the end of the world, but that subs translates into ad revenue. It directly translates into money. Yes, her little spiel lost them probably six. I don't know how you'd estimate it, but it lost the money. It's not nothing. SJWs don't care about money. And besides, I was thinking, like, is it possible for them to take money under the table to push products? I'm not saying they're doing that. I mean, for all I know, they could be selling crack to school children, assuming that they're allowed within 1,000 meters of a school. I'm not trying to imply anything there. Money doesn't matter. Bolshevism does. It is a religion to them. They killed God to make their own religion of Moses Mordecai Levy. So her agent can't just call her and warn her, hey, we need to have a amicable parting of the contract. We need to go our own ways. Because then Frisk could get on social media and play the victim with her agent as the bad guy. And she goes, I'm a woman in a male industry and I'm getting marginalized and oppressed and disenfranchised. The only thing I will say is she's not a very likable person. So even people who have to support her on the left, there's not the groundswell of support for her that there would be, because she's not all there. I got to be careful of the YouTube algorithm. She's admitted herself in an interview that she's got some issues of not firing on all 8 cylinders. And you want, it's the issue of, I guess, borderline personality disorder, where you don't know how the world is perceiving you. You're walking around, not exactly the point of like wearing a bathrobe or underwear on the outside of your clothing, but it's like just little odd thing. But I mean, does everyone at that G4 have a BPD where, like, you read her anti-male speech and like, hey Frosk, I can't help but notice I went through your spiel and I'm looking at our audience demographics, and our audience is 95% male between 10 years old and 22, and your 3.5 minute blurb is insulting them. That seems like not a path we'd want to go to. Why don't we shelve this idea for now? And I'd use a lot of hand gestures. Look around there. Why don't we put this idea away for now? Let's hold off on it. Let's grow the channel a little bit more. And, we'll do it in some far-flung future. Translation, we'll never do it. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, guys. I will see you all next episode.